I'm here with Joe Bernstein, who I reached out to. He is a contributor on Mind Body Green, and saw that he had lost 160 pounds. Had a really great story. Reached out to him, and thankfully he obliged to take my call. And so we're sitting down for an interview. Joe, first off, thanks so much for your time. You mind just telling us where you're from, maybe a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I live in Washington, D.C. I'm originally from the D.C. metro area as well. Yeah, like you said, I lost 160 pounds. I grew up obese, was always overweight, and over the course of several lifestyle changes over several years, I ended up finding a way to lose the weight. And really, what's important to me is making the deeper connections between the actual physical weight, the way we're living, and other parts of our life. So now I've kind of committed my life and made my mission helping people do the same, kind of get off autopilot, lose weight, live a fuller and bigger life. So I am a coach. You could say a wellness coach. You could say a life coach as well. So that's what I do now. I have my own business helping people kind of step into the life they want.
Fantastic. I believe that I saw that at your biggest you were 340 pounds. Looking back, can you kind of maybe talk about the contributing factors that led to you becoming 340 pounds?
Yeah. Primarily lots of eating and not a lot of movement. It's the main contributing factor. I really, that's the surface. The surface is a lot of food, tons of food. I loved food back in my old days, growing up and in my 20s. But really, the big contributing factor was, you know, I had a great childhood in so many ways. I have very supportive family, awesome parents, and they're very loving. And there was a lot of tension in the household growing up. So if you really want to drive all the way down to the core, if we want to take some deep cuts here, it was a lack of feeling safety in my life growing up because of a lot of emotional tension and turmoil within my family. And all of us kind of learned to cope with that through eating. All of us found a way to find safety in food and eating. And, so for me, by the time I was 4 or 5, I was already the fat kid. And that just was my identity. I didn't know any different. And so getting up to the point where I was 340 pounds in my mid 20s was just my trajectory in life. I thought that was the way it was supposed to be. So, yeah, the contributing factors, obviously the stuff you know about, food and eating, but also a lot of emotional challenge and strife and lack of safety, and really just a core belief that that's just who I was. Didn't question it much for a long time.
And I saw on your website you said you yo-yo dieted your way through middle school and high school. When did you first become aware of your weight, and what was your reason for dieting?
When I first became aware of my weight, I think probably whenever consciousness comes online and memory comes online, I was pretty aware of it. I remember being told I wasn't very old, before adolescence, that my pediatrician used to tell my parents that he wanted to represent me when I was a lineman in the NFL. When I was like 2 years old, he was saying this. That's a really cool way of saying you got a fat kid on your hands. He's big, he's thick and big boned. So I kind of always was aware of my weight. And I was always kind of also unconscious to how big of a problem it was. I really became aware, painfully aware of how big of a problem it was, probably when I hit my highest weight after several years in my 20s, not weighing myself, not going to doctors, and finding that I was a good 50 pounds heavier than I thought I was. That was probably the first time I really said, ooh, gosh, this is out of control. Now looking back, it was always a part of who I was. Growing up in my teen years, I remember being an adolescent, being maybe 16, 17, and thinking, legitimately, just my thought process was very limiting. I probably will never I'll always be obese, probably will never have success in dating and relationship, probably won't get married. And I really thought, and it was half a joke and half serious and very painful, but I used to joke about, yeah, I'll probably die in my 40s. So I was always aware of it, and I kind of wasn't that conscious to the reality of it at the same time. It's a strange duality.
That's kind of crazy to me that you actually, at that age, had the wherewithal to think, I'm going to potentially not get into have, as you said, have success in relationships, potentially die early. You mentioned in your first email to me that your story is very much about emotional eating, anxiety, fear thinking, a low image of self value. For
Yeah.
someone who hasn't lived through that, can you talk about what that maybe means or what that looked like?
Yeah, I'd love to because that fear, that anxiety, the low self-worth, it kind of ran my life, and I wasn't very conscious of that. 6 years ago, if you said, "Hey Joe, are you an anxious person?" I would have said, "Nah, not at all." But the reality was, all of my thought processes started with why I couldn't do things. All of my thought process started with what was going to go wrong. For me to be able to take action around almost anything, I had to hash out all the potential negative outcomes. And that's just the way I processed the world and processed life. Now, to me, that's anxiety. That's always thinking about what could go wrong. That's a lot of stress in our mind and in our nervous system constantly. So the fear part of it was, it was, again, that idea of what could go wrong, what's wrong with this world. There was an unconscious feeling of not being very safe in the world, so I always had to protect myself. Um, so, what it's like for me, I can only speak for me. I can't speak for so many other people, but for me, I wasn't aware that that was the kind of basis for how I functioned. I wasn't aware that all my thoughts were limiting my choice and my action, that I always believed I couldn't get what I wanted.
Yeah,
You're asking about emotional eating as well, too, right?
yeah, and maybe a good place to go into, which is kind of my next question, and ties into that one. You said you had a low image of self value, and then
Right,
you also say on your website that your version of reality was based on thinking you didn't deserve much. Why is it that you
right,
think you
right.
didn't
Yeah,
deserve
that's the
much?
part. So, yeah, I'd love to speak about that because, truth be told, is I thought I was a confident person. I had a lot of confidence in the skills I did have. And I thought I had high self esteem. I was raised with an amazing parent. My mother was always the biggest cheerleader in the world, and everything we did was quite phenomenal and amazing. So I did feel I had high self esteem, but at the same time, a lot of my behaviors, a lot of my actions, what I allowed to have in my life, really indicates someone who didn't see themselves as having a lot of value. So examples of that being, like I said, I kind of always thought I didn't have value when it came to dating and relationship and women because of my size. No one ever said you're not valuable, you're not worthy. But when you're constantly teased growing up, when you see the imagery that's out there for what a man is and what a man should look like, um, that definitely drives the idea that we are less than. It drove for me the idea that I was less than. And the conscious thought never went through my mind of I am less than, I am unworthy. But I didn't try very hard to date. I didn't think I was that smart because people treat fat people like they're dumb, even if they're brilliant. They treat them like they're slow, like there's something wrong with them. So again, it was not spoken, but those are beliefs I took on, and that's the way I acted. And in many ways, that was true. When I went and I got so examples of that being my relationship, whenever I had a relationship, I thought it was the best woman in the world and that's the only woman that would ever love me. And so I latched on for dear life and I created very codependent relationships that weren't healthy. And the need for me to stay in those relationships, I would do anything. I'd compromise my integrity. I would compromise my values. And so that's someone who's acting in a way that they don't think they're valued. Again, with my career, my first career in retail, I actually loved it. For like a decade, I loved it. I loved the company. I loved what I was doing. It was amazing. And at the same time, the reason I was doing that is because I thought I couldn't get anything, I couldn't do anything better, that no one would pay me to do anything else in the world, that was kind of, I was skilled at that. I learned I was skilled at that very quickly. I was communicating with people. I was skilled at helping people. I was skilled at training and teaching others within my retail world, within my store. And I was always afraid of trying to do something bigger. I'm always afraid of trying to do something better because there was that belief system that I wasn't worth anything more than that. So that's kind of how that played out, and that's a little bit about where it came from, but more about how it permeated in my life.
I think those are some extremely important points about the internal dialogue that we have with ourselves, and also the unfortunate reality of sometimes how you get treated as a person who's bigger, whether or not you realize it at the time, or you realize that you're treating somebody that way. You say that after high school you left home for the freedom of college and just unconsciously let go. What does that mean?
So you asked earlier about the yo-yo dieting, and I don't think I answered that. Um, we like I said, my family, we ate a lot. We went out to eat, but also we were always on a diet at home. So I was always trying different diets. I was sweating to the oldies with Richard Simmons when I was like 10, and I was Thai Boeing and stuff in my room in high school, and I was losing and gaining and losing and gaining, especially because I was also an athlete. I played football, I wrestled as well too. So my weight would fluctuate a lot with, was I on a diet, was I not on a diet, and was it football season, was it wrestling season, was it the off season? When I stopped participating in sports, I didn't have I didn't have any reason to be fit anymore. And when I left home, I was very undisciplined. I was looking for freedom in so many ways. Like today, I'm still looking for freedom. That's why I'm creating my own business and creating my own business. So I was looking for freedom and didn't know how to find it, right? And one of the ways that came out was, okay, I'm not in sports anymore. Obviously, I limited myself on what I believed I could attain as far as women and dating was concerned. So I didn't have that as a big factor trying to keep me fit or healthy. So I really became very addictive with all that freedom. I would party a lot. I didn't drink a lot, but I certainly would kind of let go and, did drugs and had a good time and stayed out late and got Chinese food at 3 in the morning and just ate a tremendous amount of food, just a tremendous amount of food. I stopped for so many years, probably from the age 17 to the age 25. I just unhooked from any consciousness about my weight and about the impact of my actions. I needed to soothe. And so I was always in a pattern of soothing and always using food and other indulgences to do that. So I wasn't very active, and I was eating a lot. I was staying up late. I was partying. I was participating in other like minor addictions, never completely out of control. But that resulted in me, when I left high school, it was probably about 245. I had lost a bunch of weight that year, up from 317 down to 245 in my senior year of high school. And by the time I was 25, I was 340 pounds. So literally, I just didn't feel like I had a reason anymore. I didn't feel like there was anyone telling me what to do anymore in my life. I was an adult. So my way of being an adult was just basically kind of saying, screw the world. I don't need to lose weight. I don't need to be a certain size. I'm just going to do what I want. I'm just going to get all that feel-good action all the time. And it was pretty destructive. I never went off the rails. I was never like addicted to anything in a way that was truly life-threatening, except for maybe food. But it was certainly out of control. Yeah.
And then did you have you kind of started to talk about it earlier. Did you have a rock bottom moment or a point at which you decided that you needed to make a change, or was it more of a gradual thing that happened over time?
There was one moment that was big for me, was avoiding doctors like the plague in my early adulthood. I didn't go to doctors because you didn't have to tell me I was unhealthy. I knew I was unhealthy. And at the same time, I'm pretty healthy. I don't get sick often. Even when I was big and eating terribly and smoking almost a pack of cigarettes a day and smoking lots of marijuana, and staying up late and doing crazy stuff, I didn't get sick much. So I didn't have lots of need to go to doctors, and I avoided doctors. One of the things I learned growing up was no matter what I went to a doctor for, they told me I needed to lose weight. I didn't want to hear that. So I avoided doctors quite a bit, and my mom just nagged me and nagged me and nagged me and got me to go get a physical at 25. Probably hadn't seen a doctor in 4 or 5 years. And that's when I stepped on the scale and saw 340 pounds. Yeah. I had assumed I was around 300, maybe 280, 290, 300. And in my worldview, that was okay. 340 wasn't okay. For some reason, that was big enough for me to go, this is no longer okay. And so that was probably the first time I tried to lose weight as an adult. And I made some slight changes. I lost about 50 pounds in about 3 months. But to be honest with you, that wasn't a rock bottom moment. That wasn't enough to really propel me forward to lose the rest of the weight. In fact, that's when I got enough confidence to say, maybe I can date. Maybe I can have some happiness and romance. I met someone, and in our first year, I eventually married her, but in my first year of dating, I probably went back up to 320 pounds or so. So that was a big moment where I said, wow, something's got to happen. But then when I found someone to kind of love me as is, I went back to the old ways of being, and I started gaining weight again. The truth is, in that relationship together, she influenced a lot of passions for me in life that I didn't know I had. I actually got passionate about real high quality food, not just Ben & Jerry's and late night Chinese food, not just dollar menu. We got kind of foodie together, and we were also very interested, again, a lot of her influence in the environment and in animal welfare. And having those passions, you align those three passions, if you have some values, you're probably going to lead towards eating healthier and eating more local and eating more natural and learning to cook. And those were some of the things that I took on over the course of a few years. And without trying, I started to lose a lot of weight. Naturally started to lose a lot of weight. So that's kind of the next step in the story. I, without dieting, probably got down to about 240 from 340 because I became more passionate about those things: food, the environment, local food, animals. I started chasing down things, and travel too. Travel was a big part of it. Knowing that, wow, I love nature, and a lot of these hikes up mountains are pretty darn difficult. So those kind of focuses in what I was passionate about, learning new ways of living, that led me towards a naturally more healthful way of being and a much healthier diet, and a much more inspired diet as well too. And I lost a lot of weight that way.
And I think I saw that it took you about 10 years to lose the full 160. Is that right?
That's right. I will say that I lost most of the weight between 2010 and 2013. It's probably about 90 to 100 of those pounds. But if I were to look at my top weight to my current weight, it was about a 10-year journey of losing weight, and maybe I'd gain a little bit back, losing more weight, maybe gaining a tiny bit back, losing more weight. So I would say it was like a 10-year journey down to the point, with a bulk of that happening in a 3-year period. Yeah.
I think it's awesome to hear somebody's story who took the long and slow approach, just because sometimes, one guy I interviewed very recently, Jared Mossmith, he lost an unbelievable amount of weight in 11 months, and it was incredible for him. But sometimes people, when they hear that, it seems like too much, and it obviously worked for him. And he's extremely driven, and he can certainly inspire people and make them realize what's possible. But there are also other people like myself that realize that I kind of almost have to do the long game, because if I do the short game, I'm just not going to have success. And I saw one quote that you had. It sounded like you were borrowing it from somebody, but the idea of moving from weight loss to life gain. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So, what I mean by that is, gosh, if we are warring against our body, if we're taking action to get healthier based on the idea that I need to defeat my weight, that I need to lose weight, we're actually, wow, this is going to get deep. Okay, we're actually on an unconscious level reinforcing the beliefs that got us big in the first place. We're reinforcing the idea that our value in society, our value to the world, our value to the people we love is based on what I look like and what my number is on the scale. So if we're just focused on weight loss, we can probably lose a lot of weight, and chances are we might gain it back. People that lose weight and keep it off, significant weight and keep it off, there's been a major shift in the way they view the world and in the way they're received by the world or the way they receive the world and the way they engage with life. So moving from weight loss to life gain means forgetting about that struggle of how do I lose the weight and moving towards how do I live a more inspired life that aligns with things that are healthy, that aligns with healthy choices, that align with my values, that bring me into integrity with who I am. So my examples of that were, like I mentioned, I got really interested in the environment. I started to love outdoors. I started to love travel. I started to love food, real food, not processed, packaged fast foods, not convenience foods, not easy foods. I eventually stopped eating meat and animals and dairy. And I'm not against people eating meat and dairy. I'm not like a, militant vegan or anything like that. I think the way we do it is the way we do it. But I eventually stopped eating meat. But 2 months before I stopped eating meat, I was curing my own local heritage hog, Berkshire pork, side of belly to make my own bacon at home. So that's an example. I mean, like, that's me falling in love with something and finding a passion that, by the way, was also helping me lose weight and get healthier. And then the one big part of the story that we didn't get to, I was 240 or so pounds when my marriage fell apart and when my wife left me. And believe it or not, what got me down the rest of the weight and what cemented the emotional change and the mindset change to bring me to where I am today was, for the first time in my life, I realized, wow, okay, I'm 240, I'm not 340. I for the first time realized I'm a good looking guy. For the first time I realized I have all these new kind of life passions that make me a bit more marketable on the dating scene. So the big piece at the end for me was I got inspired to learn to date and to learn to create relationship, not just with women I wanted to date, but with people from a more empowered place. And I got really passionate about even more so. I was already in sales and in training and in teaching and managing and in coaching, but I got really impassioned about how to communicate authentically with people and cultivate relationships. And to me, that passion for learning how to date, that passion for learning how to communicate on a deeper level, a passion in learning, wow, how do I function as a human being and how do other people function as human beings? That to me was really stepping into gaining more life and more passions. And that inspired me to really get embodied, to get excited about fitness, to find movement and activity that I love, and to really step up my game even further in the way I was eating.
No, that's great. It's a great way of putting it, because I think sometimes the scale can dictate our mood, our success, all those kinds of things. And the reality, I think it's also important that you took a step back and said, look at where I've come to, not just, how much do I have to go, but recognizing the fact that you had made huge changes, that you'd already lost a ton of weight. So I think it's awesome that you were able to, sometimes we can be a little hard on ourselves. On Mind Body Green, you had a list of the top 10 factors that led to the dramatic change for you. And one of them was that you learned how to cook. Did you not previously cook, or like what did meal preparation, cooking, what did all that look like before and also after? And maybe even you can kind of take us into what that looks like today.
I did not cook before. I could make eggs. I could heat up food. Cooking might have been like taking a package from Trader Joe's and putting it in a frying pan, like heating it up. I didn't really cook before. And food prep for me before was, buying frozen food. It was ordering, ordering a lot of Chinese food, a lot of pizza. I ate a lot of food from gas stations. Like I said, I was a smoker. So when I stopped for gas, I got a pack of cigarettes. I went inside. I got a soda. Probably got a little like pastry thing and some chips. Just that was the thing. And a lot of drive-through. A lot of McDonald's dollar menu happened. So that's kind of what food prep looked like for me. Food prep was giving someone money and taking something out of a package, and then putting it in my body. And a lot of it from now. So what ended up happening was a big shift. I did learn to cook. Like I said, I got very into real food and local food, and I found myself going to farmers markets and buying, that beautiful piece of local pasture-raised meat, or those amazing local eggs that have the thick shell and the orange yolk to them and such, and beautiful produce. Um, we ended up, joining CSAs, community shared agriculture. So we would just get bags of vegetables that I didn't know what to do with them. I had to look up, okay, what is this vegetable first? And second, how do I cook it? So yeah, I was experimenting with food and learning how to cook and making mistakes, and that was a big part of the process. It was fun for me. I owe a lot of my success to cooking shows and the Food Network and Iron Chef, because I'd watch them and I'd emulate it and stuff like that. So, I spent a lot of time cooking while I was losing weight. Believe it or not, I was cooking at least a dinner almost every day, and I was prepping big batches of stuff for lunches. Nowadays, food prep's a lot simpler for me. I spend a lot less time doing it. Nowadays, I will spend a couple of hours on a Sunday usually, or if I'm busy Sunday, I'll make sure it happens on Saturday morning, or if I have to wake up at 8 on Saturday because I know I'm full that weekend, I'll do it. And I'll make a big batch of something. I'll make a big pot of some sort of really hearty stew with a lot of plant-based protein in it. Or I'll make a big thing of vegetables and quinoa and beans, and just something that I can just grab. I can alternate lunches and dinners. So Monday I might have it for lunch, Tuesday I might have it for dinner. And then I chop up lots of vegetables for salads, so I can throw together big, filling, delicious, hearty salads with lots of good plant-based fat and lots of good plant-based protein, and I can do that in 2 minutes. So most of my food prep is done in a very short period of time, and it's just there for me. It's ready for me. Now that I have so much passion in life and I'm trying to do a lot of things, as much as I love to cook and it can be enjoyable and pleasurable and meditative for me, I prioritize my time differently. So I make a big batch preparation on the weekend, so it's ready for me during the week.
Preparation is key. So you have any life or physical goals that you're currently working towards? Or maybe you could say, do you have, look 5 years in the future, where do you see yourself?
It's interesting. So physical goals, if anything, I'm continuing to work towards more acceptance of my body no matter what state it's in. So if I were to gain, 180, if I were to go up to 190, accepting that is where I am right now, and knowing that if I wanted to, I could focus and come back down to 180. Basically, that's an important physical goal for me. It's more of a mindset goal, but just being okay with my body no matter what. A big part of my transformation was realizing when I got down close to 200, wow, you know what? I'm close to the size that I want to be, and my body is kind of looking like it used to, but just a lot smaller. There's still a lot of skin and stuff, and there's still like a little belly, and it seems like even though I've lost more weight in the past year, it really isn't going anywhere. So that acceptance of my body the way it is and the way it looks is a big part of my transformation, and it's an ongoing process. I try and deepen into that all the time. And I want to do some things that push me even further out of comfort zone with body. So I believe my sister and I are probably going to do a Tough Mudder this year. I'm not a racer. I like quick, short, intense workouts. I'm not a big, long workout kind of guy. I'm not a runner per se. I can run, but I'm not a runner per se. And I want to challenge myself to do that. So it's kind of a physical challenge. Where I see myself down the line, I authentically, whether it be one-on-one or whether it be in these articles of Mind Body Green, I want to influence and help empower people, and on a larger scale, the world, if you will, to a more, I want to say, a more evolved, a more easeful, a more joyful, a more empowered, a more passionate view of food, eating, weight, relationship to body, and really just relationship to ourselves. and how we feel and exist in this world and what we're capable of. So like a year ago, I started my coaching practice. Well, less than a year ago, probably 6 months ago, I started my coaching practice. It's already going well. I want to make my focus, how do I develop that further? How do I continue to create impact with the clients I work with and impact with the people I reach so we can step up a little bit in life? So 5 years down the road, who knows where I'll be? I could be working at a grocery store and writing articles for Mind Body Green. And I'd be okay with that. And at the same time, I would love to be really continuing to coach people into amazing success and transformation, whether that be physical, external, or internal. And I would love to be out there putting my message into a bigger field, doing some public speaking, maybe creating some informational products that people can enjoy and kind of deepen into life with as well too. So I hope to make some big splashes in the world, and I know that just being who I am will do that. And at the same time, I want that to be what I do professionally for the rest of my life in one way or another. So yeah, I don't like to box myself into very specific ideas, but that's what I want to do right now and what I want to do in the future.
Outstanding. If you could give someone some advice who's maybe at the beginning part of this journey, that the person that was where you were whenever you were at your biggest, what would you say to that person, or what kind of advice would you give to them?
Wow, it's an interesting question. I want to say in my gut, I believe that what I tell them won't matter, because unfortunately, I think that until people have made that shift in their mind and they're ready to change, everyone's just preaching to them and everyone's telling them things that they already know. So that's what I want to say. So my first gut reaction is, if I were to go back to 20-year-old Joe, he wouldn't care what 34-year-old Joe is saying. He wouldn't believe it. First of all, he wouldn't think there is a reality where that exists. He would think it's like some alien hologram from the future that's tricking him. That being said, if you're listening to this and you have a lot of weight you want to lose, or you're struggling with health and you're struggling with weight, first thing I want to say is it's 100% possible to create big change. And you don't have to go on diets that restrict your food and make life miserable. You don't have to do all kinds of painful and challenging exercise. There are ways to align a healthier lifestyle with things that you actually enjoy in life. I absolutely see the science and understand the science and the reality of calories in, calories out, but that's not the whole picture. It's not the big picture. We are more amazing as human beings than just that simple science. So start to educate yourself about what's possible. I would also say, absolutely, find someone that can help you do the work around your beliefs in the world. Find someone that can help you do the work around the emotions that are trapped within us. And, kind of take a look at that sooner rather than later, because my truth is, I think this is a universal truth, is I had a lot of weight on me because I didn't feel safe in the world, because I didn't feel accepted in the world. And I had a lot of weight because I didn't believe that there was any other way. And the truth of the matter is, we can all feel safe in the world, we can all feel accepted in the world, we can all believe there's another way, but it does take a lot to get there. And that's emotional work, that's mindset work, and that's not physical work. So that's just as important as anything you do with your food and with your movement, with your body, is what you do from the inside out. So that's kind of the core message I would want to deliver. I have a great teacher that I follow. I'm training right now as an eating psychology coach, and the teacher, this man who started the Institute for Psychology of Eating, if you guys have not heard about it, check it out right now. Amazing stuff. He likes to say that excess fat on the body is just extra stored energy, and we have to figure out what that's being stored for. And once we figure that out, then we can start to figure out how to manifest that into an output of the energy, and the weight will start to go away. So it's a bigger picture, and there's so much that can happen, but we got to look at all the different parts of our life. And as scary as that may be, oh, it's so worth it once we face that fear and start moving into the challenges that come with all that work.
Yeah, I think that it's funny when you're in the heat of it and you're trying to figure things out and you're having trouble, seeing the result. Like, what I always go back to is it's going to be worth it. Like, it will be worth it. It will be worth the time. It will be worth, maybe sometimes people who think you're extreme or you're eating crazy, or whether it's the workouts or getting up early, and coming out a little bit further on the other side, not quite all the way on the other side, but I realize it's 100% worth it. Where can people find out more about you, what you're doing, and connect with you?
You can definitely check me out. I do have a website that's part blog where I'm just sharing my ideas around the world. As you can see, I have a lot. And I'm passionate about them. And part, it's in support of my coaching business. So it is dropthearmor.com. So let's see if I can spell that. So dropthearmor.com. And this is, what I do is I help people with both the physical and food work and the mindset work. So if you're listening to this and you're inspired, I'd love to coach you. Connect with me on my website, or you can just email me if you have anything to share, joe@dropthearmor.com. Send me a message. I'd love to connect. That's what I do.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, thanks so much for your inspiration, for the work that you're doing, and thanks for giving me a little bit of your time and sharing with us.
Oh, thank you for doing this. I'm inspired by you making a film about this and also interviewing people. This is actually something that I have a mindset to do eventually too, down the line, some podcasting. And you already beat me to the punch, So good for you for doing this. It's amazing. The messages that we have as people who've made the shift, they've got to be shared, because it's not just about weight. It's about anything that people are struggling with in life. So thank you for reaching out to me. I'm honored and so excited that we're doing this and that you're doing the work you're doing.
Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.